What's up, guys? Want to throw some rankings together for the games yesterday, but unfortunately ESPN was having some issues, so I wasn't able to get that done. I threw something together right now. A lot of my notes are from prior to the game yesterday, or games, so maybe this is relevant and just for fun. With that being said, let's get started. Number 10, we got Steven, Lords of Dogtown. Keepers, Watkins and Big Ben. Watkins, always an injury concern. He's great when he's out there. But again, I think he's already hurt. Big Ben, not a big fan of keeping quarterbacks, especially the fourth or fifth ranked quarterback. First pick to Gronk, another injury guy, but when he's out there, I mean, there's no other tight end even close to him. So that's a good pick. Late in the draft, you took Sanu. He's no longer on your roster. You dropped him for Dwayne Allen, which, I mean, could work out. The only problem is Dwayne Allen's a fill-in guy. So who knows what's going to go on there. Kelvin Benjamin, coming off an injury, might work out for you, but looking at your roster right now going into next year, I don't really see anybody that's keeper worthy other than Gronkowski. You might have to make some decisions at the end of the year, see if you can package those guys up if you're not in the playoff race late in the year, see if you can get a solid number one keeper. But for right now, we got you at 10, big guy. Number 9, we got Wade. Wade kept Lacey and Cam, again another quarterback. Not big on keeping quarterbacks, so if you're gonna keep one, that's probably one or two to keep. So I'm all right with that. Problem I have is Lacey. You hear all these things about him losing weight in the off season, but honestly, the guy still looks fat to me. So I don't know. Maybe it's just me, or maybe other people agree with me. But you took Ingram with your first pick. I think that was an auto pick. You know, I think he's going to be probably your top scoring running back this year. I think he's going to push that 200-point barrier, probably get up around 240, 250. If that ends up happening, you're going to be finished a lot higher than 9. But as of right now, I got you sitting at 9, buddy. Number 8, we got Jeremy. He's one of our new owners to the league, Chronicles of Riddick. Jeremy took over for Dylan. Didn't have much to work on or work with in the way of his roster, but he ended up keeping C.J. Anderson and Demaryius Thomas. Demaryius, you know, is one of the healthiest receivers the last few years, but he's already kind of banged up. You're hearing rumors that he might miss a little bit of time. But I don't think he's going to regress as much as people think he is with Peyton not being there. So I think that's okay, and I think C.J. Anderson is actually going to prove a lot of people wrong this year. He looks like he's running with a purpose. So I like C.J. Anderson. Forte had a great first game, but you know, I think age is going to catch up with him. He's going to slow down the second half of the season. Melvin Gordon, though, I think that guy is going to have a breakout year. I know it's only his second year. Already got in the end zone twice yesterday. I think he's going to keep running the ball like he has been. I think you're going to be all right there. Ty, you know, I think he's going to release the reins to Moncrief. But Dez, Demaryius, C.J. Anderson, and Melvin Gordon is a good core. Hopefully they can get things going for you and get you moved up in that top 5. Number 7, another new owner, John Elizondo. He took over for Brad. Hasn't changed the team name yet, Bear Down, and I think his symbol on his team page is actually Brad's family crest, so you might want to change that. Also, another fun fact about John, he's Basque, not French. Many people think he's French because he smells bad and has a bad attitude, but he's in fact Basque. If you're wondering where Basque is, it's a small country in the Pyrenees Mountains in between Spain and France. I don't know if they smell there too, if it's just John. But moving on. Just kidding, John. Just kidding. Keepers were Brandon Marshall and Aaron Rodgers. Again, not a big fan of keeping a quarterback, but if you're going to keep one, Rodgers and Cam are probably the two to keep. Took Doug Martin the first round. It's going to be interesting to see what happens now that he's got his contract if he runs like he did last year. But you got a good receiving core. Marshall's solid. Randall Cobb, I think, is going to get better with Jordy Nelson being back. And Golden Tate, I think, is capable of being a number 1 receiver. I mean, he showed it when Megatron was hurt the year before last, so hopefully that continues on this year. DeMarco Murray, he's been the best running back in the league, and he's been middle of the road. So it's going to be interesting to see which DeMarco Murray shows up this year. But Josh Gordon, when he comes off suspension, and Will Fuller, I think Will Fuller is going to turn out to be a pretty solid pick for you. He had a nice first game. But it's going to be interesting to see what happens when Josh Gordon comes back. I think he comes back in week 5. So you got some opportunity to make some moves there, try to improve your roster. and move on up the list. Number 6, Malcolm. Malcolm, you know, for his keepers, LaShawn McCoy and Freeman, I'm not too high on either one of those guys. I think Freeman, in fact, is going to take a bigger step back than McCoy does. But getting Ezekiel Elliott with that first pick, that's a solid guy, I think, for the next couple of years as a keeper. So got a nice pick there. Edelman is always solid, especially in fantasy, so you're good there. Fitzgerald, it's hard to say with him. There's too many weapons there, and I think he's going to revert back to 2014 rather than 2015, which wasn't that great year for him. And I know he had a great first game, but I don't think it's going to last the entire year. Jordan Reed, solid tight end. I mean, if you're not going to get Gronkowski, that's probably the next guy to get. Emmanuel Sanders, depending on what happens with Demarius, that's another great guy. And Jordan Matthews. I mean, you got some room to play with here and get a nice lineup in and week out. You can play matchups. You don't have to just play your core group of guys, but you're going to have to pay attention to your roster, Malcolm. All right? Next up, number 5. We got Tom, Any Given Sunday. Tom kept Adrian Peterson and Julio Jones. You know, Adrian, every year, I think he's not going to do good, and he keeps proving me wrong, but I think this is the year I'm right. And I think this is the year that Adrian Peterson finishes outside top 5, possibly top 10 scoring for running backs. So it's a bold prediction, but let's see if that happens. Allen Robinson, you know, if he can carry on what he did last year, that's a solid pick. Macklin, that's your guy. He's a solid 240-point guy. I mean, as long as he catches balls, he doesn't really need to get into the end zone. But if he can get those touchdowns, he'll definitely get up above 250 points. So that's a nice pick. Jeremy Hill, I took him in another league. I believe the hype. They said he was running with a purpose. He was trying to prove people wrong from last year. But again, he looks like a guy that's going to carry the ball 11, 12 times for 25, 30 yards and get a touchdown. So I think his production week in and week out is going to be based on him getting those touchdowns. So we'll see. Got some other guys there. Crowell, crowded backfield. Michael Thomas has potential in New Orleans. It's always good to be a guy on the other end of Drew Brees throwing the ball. Tom Brady, when he comes off suspension, that's going to be huge. I got him in another league as well. Number 4, we have Shane, but Shane is actually supposed to be number 3. This is supposed to be me, so bear with me. My keepers, Odell and Gurley. I freaking love those guys. I think they're as solid as any keepers get. Took Cooper in the first round. Really like him. Not only because I'm a Raider fan, I just think he's going to just keep on improving and get better and better every year. And hopefully this is the year where he reaches that elite receiver status. Cooks and Allen, took them with my picks in the second round. I was really hoping that one of those guys would pan out for me between the two and I could trade the other guy off. Well, Keenan Allen made that decision for me because now he's done for the year. Cooks had a great solid first game, but you know, I still have a lot of question marks about my Oakland defense. I mean, is that going to be status quo for the year, or was that just they played a really good New Orleans offense? So we'll see. So Cook's probably going to have to step up into that wide receiver running back position for me. Amir Abdullah, I like him. He had a good first week. I'm going to have to wait and see if he can do that week in and week out before he gets in the lineup. But all in all, I like my lineup. Russell Wilson was a big letdown in the first week, but I think I'm fine there. But I got me at 4. Back to Shane now. We got Shane at number 3. Bell and Hopkins, nice keepers. Bell suspended for a few games, so I don't think you're missing anything there. I think you got D'Angelo Williams on your roster, so you're not skipping a beat there. And by the time he wears down, you're going to have this guy come in fresh. You're looking good. Hopkins is as good of a receiver as it gets. You're going to have problems here with Duke Johnson. Frank Gore, you know, I think he's a solid producer, but unless he gets over that 200-point mark, it's kind of hard to have him in your lineup week in and week out. But just based on your 2 keepers and Andrew Luck, I think you're going to be solid there. So I got Shane at number 3. Number 2, I got Tony at number 2. His keepers are Brown and Johnson. Again, that's about as solid as it gets. I traded him this guy. It was a tough decision for me between Gurley and him. and Odell, but you know, we'll see what happens. But he had a great game one. Gio, that's your guy. I'm not really high on him, but Crabtree, I think, is about as solid as it gets at wide receiver for not one of the big name guys. I think he's going to be good for you. Your guy, Jarvis Landry here, Willie Snead, you got a good receiving core. You got a bunch of guys that they don't have big names, but they produce week in and week out. So I think you're going to be fine there. Dion Lewis, I mean, if he can build on what he did last year in New England, I think it's about as good of a lineup as you're going to get, especially with Olsen at tight end. And at number one, I'm sure you figured it out by now, Brady. We got you at number one, Teenage Mutant Ninja Bortles. The keepers are Miller and Green. I mean, those are solid guys. Miller never really got the ball the way he should have in Miami. I think he's going to do great in Houston. Hopefully he gets some goal line carries. I think that was the only thing he was lacking yesterday. Hyde is as talented as a running back as it gets. It's just a health thing with him. Baldwin, a lot of people expect him to regress this year. I don't see why. I think he's just going to continue to get better and better and better. Mike Evans, it's another solid wide receiver. So you got a good trio right there between Baldwin, Green, and Evans. Lamar Miller, Hyde, those are two great running backs. Ryan Matthews, I mean, you can plug him in as needed, and if he stays healthy, that guy can definitely produce. I think your core group, the only thing you're lacking is a quarterback. I think Bortles is going to be fine. I think week one was kind of a feeling out process. A little intimidating going to Green Bay week one. Always hard playing up there. But all in all, I got Brady at 1. So to recap, Brady at 1, Tony at 2, Shane at 3, me at 4, Tom at 5, Malcolm at 6, John at 7, Jeremy at 8, Wade at 9, Steven at 10. These are my rankings. You don't have to like them, but you have to deal with them. They really don't mean anything. But thanks for listening, and hope you had fun with it, fellas. All right.